not webinar this time, but we're doing a meeting, so something a little different. I'm going to go ahead and record this call, which Vanya has already done. So just so you guys know, this call will be recorded and it'll be available later on Zoom. My name is Nanor, and this year I'm the ICF Orange County president, and I am super, super excited to have Vanya lead another exciting coaching and technology webinar / meeting today. So Vanya has been doing this for 2 years now, and she has really been keeping us on the leading edge, if you will, and getting our knowledge where we need to be as far as technology trends go, software platforms, applications, and whatnot, and what the future of coaching looks like. Thank you for keeping us in the know, Vanya. We really appreciate all that you do for our chapter, and you've been doing it for 2 years. Vanya, a couple of years ago, was also our programming director, and I had an opportunity to work with her. And I tell you, she is, oh my God, she is one action-oriented person that is hard to keep up with. And one of the most amazing traits about Vanya that I love is her integrity. Like when she says X, you know X is going to happen. So thank you for being a role model on that too, Vanya. And another thing you guys should know is Vanya's been working with David Clutterbuck on team coaching and again, supporting us coaches to be better team coaches. So with that, Vanya, I'd love to hand it over to you, and please get us started.
Thank you, Nanor. Thank you for the lovely intro. And I'm so happy to see many familiar faces today. And I'm on a gallery view. So hi, everyone. You look beautiful. And let's see what we have here today. I started this actually 3 years ago. And the first year I did this webinar with ICF Los Angeles. And let me tell you, back then I hardly was having 3 people showing up to my webinar, that it was all about technology and coaching. And I was trying to figure out how I can inspire more people to be curious about what technology can bring to the table of really democratized, optimized, being more efficient, being more accessible by everybody, not only from the top as the coaches. And coaches do what they love without struggling finding clients. So I had awesome guests in the last 3 years, mostly founders of coaching platforms, but also some researchers and some people that they are inspired to see how actually technology is helping us to be better and do more impactful things to the world. So today I have a very exciting guest here, Lori Mazan, and I usually don't read resumes or don't read bios, but her bio is so inspiring and I want to capture everything, so forgive me, but I will just take a look to my notes and give you all the information, because it's inspiring to have such a wonderful guest today. Lori is co-founder and chief executive officer on Sounding Board. Simply put, she and her co-founder have democratized coaching. What we are inspiring to do, that coaching is accessible by everyone. Sounding Board is an enterprise coaching ecosystem that provides individualized and group coaching at scale by leveraging a technology platform that deliver personalized coaching at a reduced rate compared to traditional coaching models. Also inspired by her 25 years of executive coaching and hearing from CEOs that they wish they had her kind of in-depth coaching much earlier in their career. Lori teamed up with her previous client, Christine Tao, to co-found Sounding Board in 2016. And so many amazing things happened ever since, which we will hear from Lori in a second. Sounding Board is one of the less than 3% female-founded companies to raise venture capital for leading investors like Bloomberg Beta and Precurious Ventures. Having been founded by 2 women, Sounding Board has a passion for diverse people and thinking that drives innovative ideas and creative solutions. Their company is truly a global community that strives for equality in the development of all leaders. Oh my God. Lori, thank you for being here today. Thank you so much. Please welcome and few words just to kick off the meeting, and maybe I will give a little overview of what we're going to be talking about after that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I actually live in Orange County and have been to the ICF Orange County meetings quite a few times. So thank you for hosting me. And I'll give a little plug to Vanya. Like, she's actually way ahead of the game, thinking about coaching and technology 3 years ago. So coaching is kind of behind the curve in terms of its use of technology. So she's very forward thinking to get this started, in advance of the general trends. Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how this happened. I didn't do that. Who
You
mutes
have a
me here?
microphone, yeah.
Who has an access to my dashboard? So we will be talking during this webinar about something that is very present for everybody anywhere in the world. And the future of work, which is happening right now, and we think that will happen in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, but it happened because of COVID-19 and the digital transformation that we all experiencing in a very high speed and demand. Why coaching is the new training and what actually that means and looks like. How working from home, remote, is the new normal, which many people thought that is impossible to work from home for so many different kinds of jobs, but actually is very tangible and is happening. And I can tell you one thing, most of the people I talk with, they love it. I don't know, what is your experience and how you feel about that? I've always been working from home in the last 10 years, regardless of this change, but the people that they just recently start working, like my husband, they just love it. And I don't think that he will ever go back to the office. So what virtual leadership development really is and why it's important to democratize coaching, how important it is to align leadership development goals to measurable outcomes, and what does 2021 look like for the coaching industry, but not only 2021, what the next 5 years we will require from us to shift, to learn, to grow, and how we can stay competitive in this market that is ever changing. So, Lori, we talked, yeah, go ahead. Are you saying something?
Me? No, waiting
Yeah.
to be directed.
I heard some, yeah, I heard something, and I thought that you want to add something down.
Yeah.
So, in the introduction to the audience, I touched on that you're founding a company focused on leadership development. What was the void you felt, and how did it impact virtual coaching and leadership development back then and now, please?
Okay. I was thinking I would start with just a little history that led up to these decisions. So I got certified from CTI in 1994. So I'm as old as the hills. And that was 1 year before the ICF actually was created. So it's very early in the profession of coaching. Back then, every coach was an independent coach. In the early years, I used to actually just coach with verbal agreements, no written agreements or anything. Oh, and my history is all in corporate coaching. So always enterprise pay, company pay coaching. But even then, execs used to pay out of their pockets or out of their company pockets for coaching. And it was like this secret thing behind closed doors. No one wanted anybody to know they had a coach. And one reason it was like that was because initially coaching started as a service for derailed execs. So if you're a leader in the company and you have a coach, then the perception was that you were derailed. So nobody wanted to let anyone know they had a coach. So that actually went on for almost 10 years, actually. At that time, coaching only served less than 3% of folks in an organization, just the very, very top tier of folks. And almost none of it was virtual, it was all in person. There was then a next phase of coaching, which started in about 2005, 6 or so, where a bunch of coaching aggregators came in and started taking over from companies the management of coaching. And now coaches could work for Coach Source or Right Management or Lee Hecht Harrison. And those companies would manage the engagements and supply the coaches into the company. Though that coaching also was still very high in the organization, mostly just executive level or top level managers. But now it moved up to serve maybe 35% of the folks in an organization, still just a very elite number of folks. And about 20% of that coaching, we called it virtual. We did not mean virtual with video, we meant phone. So that was kind of the start of phone coaching. Personal coaching or individual coaching did phone coaching earlier, but corporations didn't like that. They still wanted to see your face. And then the third phase is the phase that we're starting into now in the last couple of years, which is trying to bring coaching out of the C-suite and out of senior leaders down into the whole organization of leaders. And in some cases, down to the whole organization, including all employees. That's that concept of democratizing coaching. It was very elite for a long time. It was high cost. Because it was only in the top of the organization, it was primarily males and white males who were the recipients. Like the first maybe 12 years of my coaching profession, I only coached males because there were no female leaders. Right? I'd always be the only female on the executive floor or whatever it was. So that democratization of coaching is to try to bring the really incredible benefits of coaching, which I'm sure you all know, to just so many more people in organizations across the world. So 4 years ago, really 7 years ago, a company called BetterUp, which I'm sure you've all heard of, started offering tech-enabled coaching. They originally offered it to consumers, and then a couple years later, offered it to companies. And then we were the second player in that market, and it's called tech-enabled coaching. So all virtual with some kind of technology supporting the coaching, both for the coach and we call them the coachee or the client. So that's been growing over the last couple of years, slowly, not hugely. Still, it's kind of pricey, and companies who are forward thinking have been using it. But now it is completely accelerating due to COVID, as Vanya said, because guess what? There's no more face-to-face coaching. at least not right now. So now it's 100% virtual. It went from about 20% virtual by the phone and then these tech-enabled companies to basically 100% at this point. And because we're probably going to be working from home for a while longer, it's going to stay that way for a while. I anticipate you'll have an opportunity to do in-person or face-to-face coaching again, but it will be at a much smaller scale. And that's because of cost, right? Now, either the executive or the coach has to travel somewhere to be in person. And I think that will be minimized at this time. So COVID's been a big change and a big boon for the coaching industry. And then the next phase is this: companies really deploying coaching widely across their employee population. So Vanya and a couple of people mentioned they do team coaching. Group coaching is becoming big. On-demand coaching, sort of developmental planning coaching, career coaching. You know, there's a lot of coaching possibilities for organizations now. And for them to really make that useful, now they need technology because they have to manage all these coaches and coaching engagements. And it's not good enough now just to have a coach. You have to show that you had development and that development benefited the company. So you have to show the whole pathway all the way through to organizational impact for the organization to think it's worth the money. So coaching really is going to be operating with technology, in my opinion, from now on. Doesn't mean you won't have your regular coaching engagements, but all that management is going to start to be managed by technology. So that was a long history of coaching, but let you know it's going in a very different direction than it used to back in the old days when you could just be an independent coach that contracted directly with a leader in an organization.
Well, thank you, Lori. That was a very good overview of what happened and why we actually need coaching in the form of platforms or apps, or there are some individual coaches that they find their own system of using technology and few different platforms and digitized what they have in hands, like tech stack, what they use multiple platforms like Zoom and Quip and maybe Trello just to keep up and being able to manage everything. And there are a few other platforms that they actually do that for you, like in return of monthly payment membership. But tell us what exactly Sounding Board does for coaches and for companies.
Oh, okay. Well, we provide coaching services, so one-on-one and group coaching. Group coaching distinguished from team coaching. Team coaching we think of as for intact teams. Group coaching for leaders across the organization that allows for peer-to-peer experience. And then one-on-one coaching, we have 3-month, 6-month, and year-long engagements. That's all leadership development. We have a set of leadership capabilities, or we use the leadership capabilities from the organization, and we coach to those capabilities and measure those capabilities, and then measure the impact of that capability development for the organization. Then supporting all of that is the technology. So we have an admin panel that manages all of the coaching engagements. We have a set of tools for coaches so they can manage all of their coachees. We have tools for the company stakeholders so they can see all the coaching that's going on and what's happening with that. And we also have a set of tools for the coachee so they can track all of their development and also organize their sessions and their scheduling, that kind of thing. So it's really a comprehensive coaching ecosystem that now companies are needing to manage the level of coaching that they want to offer. And one interesting trend that's been happening, and the ICF survey that just came out highlighted this, companies are starting to really advance on the use of internal coaches. So even though we're an external vendor of our coaching, companies now, to make it scalable and cost effective for them, are developing their own employees as coaches. And just to be clear, there's two types. Somebody like one of us who is a coach could go into a company as an internal coach. They do have that. Even very large companies that have hundreds of thousands of employees only have about 100 of those coaches. The other thing they're doing is they are developing their leaders and managers as coaches. So they give them coach training, sometimes shortened coach training, and then they utilize those folks about 20% of their time to coach their not their own employees, but coach inside the organization. So that's another way they're trying to make coaching cost effective. That one's maybe not so good for independent coaches, but it actually is good for the coaching profession because more people are getting out there being coaches and being coached in the organizations.
So, like 7 years ago, I was in a conference and David Peterson was the previous head of coaching for Google. He was talking a lot about VUCA world and how we coach in VUCA world. And this was kind of like, oh, very, very exotic term, which comes from the military. But now we're living into that and we are experiencing that because like COVID just changed rapidly the environment that we are all operating. So what do you think are the opportunities and challenges that coaches are facing right now?
I think there's a couple of neat little opportunities of the work from home and COVID experience. One is that companies are really recognizing that employees need support. So you just added this big event on top of what was already happening, and it's a lot for folks. So companies are recognizing that. A second piece of that is because of remote work, they're recognizing that there has to be more ways that people are supported and more ways that people are supported to interact and communicate with each other. Probably the biggest problem of a work from home or remote work environment is isolation and lack of interaction with others. So their companies are looking to coaching to handle part of that issue. They can't handle all of it, but part of that. And then I think the third is companies realize leaders and managers are not skilled in managing remote teams. So they really need help and support in doing that as well. And I think a fourth one is that leaders need support themselves. They're trying to do all these new things with their workforce and their kids at home and their spouse, and they're working out of the basement or whatever it is. They need support and help with self-management themselves. So it really is opening up a lot of opportunities for coaching. It's really the first time I've seen the idea of like on-demand coaching or very short engagement coaching becoming popular. Like you have a crisis going on at home or at work, you can call a coach and get some help with that. That's starting to become more accepted.
I also see the trend of many webinar on laser coaching, in which wasn't that accepted by the coaching society or from the coaches, and say, oh, you cannot make an impact in 15 minutes session. That's not transformational coaching. Yes, this is a different type of coaching, but transformation actually happens in a second if you think from this perspective. So in a 15 minutes conversation, you can really have impact of the mindset and the shift of perspectives for your clients.
I think one thing about that though is companies, yes, transformational coaching, awesome. But companies aren't always even looking for that now. Just like our company name, sounding board, like sometimes just having somebody to talk things over with is all that's needed, or to vent some emotion and get some clarity about how you're thinking about something. You can do that in 15 minutes or 30 minutes or one session. So I think like the definitions are expanding around the use of coaching. And yes, it's all impactful and transformational. It just might be different methodologies for creating that impact and transformation.
Absolutely. And I just realized that I didn't mention why we shift the format of the session, because we wanted to make more interactive. So please feel free to ask questions. And if you want to chat, to tap in the chat box, anything that comes up to mind as a comment, or if you really want to talk, just raise your hand and Nori is going to take care of that. I want to hear from everybody. Thank you, Scott.
You're muted.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, there you go. So you mentioned, so you work for a company that does a wide range of coaching, correct, Lori?
Well, so I founded the company. I don't work for them. It's
Okay, so you have a
my
company.
company, and not a wide range. So we specifically do leadership coaching. Only.
Okay, so consistent with that, you mentioned the word group coaching. So do you work with a group of people at one time?
Yep.
And how
So,
do you
yeah.
do that? You do that via Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we do. It's usually 6 to 10 people in an organization, cross-functionally, so people from different functions. And we have a set of leadership capabilities that we're always working towards. So each session is looking at a particular capability, and we have some agile development tools that we use to help people track their development. And then they do that with their peers and with a coach, leading that session and pointing out the different themes and deepening the understanding and the depth of the conversation. And
do you do any coaching with the entire leadership team of a company?
We do not do that. Some other people on this call do that, like Vanya, but we do not do that.
Okay.
Because remember that those leadership teams, again, are at the top of the organization. And our focus is bringing coaching to leaders in the entire organization, not just at the top.
Okay.
And as coaching was available only for the top executives 10 years ago, team coaching was probably still available only for these people. But the model that my partner David Clutterback developed is allowing to coach every level of teams, not only the top. And that's going to be becoming more and more as a trend and present, because teams are very crucial for the success of the organization. And individuals create teams, but how you operate as a system is a totally different story, and brings more complexity of how you deliver, complexity of how you measure, and how everybody impacts the dynamics. But let's talk a little bit how coaching is becoming the new training, Lori. Tell us your
a couple trends around that. So part of it is the famed millennial group. They really don't like to be in a group with other folks and having an out-of-the-box experience where it's just generalized to everyone. The focus on having more personalized, developed, more customized for you, yourself as a leader, or for your environment. is a big trend, and coaching is right there to take that trend up. The other is, although people have known this for 20 years, training is notoriously bad for creating lasting impact. It's very good for creating awareness. Sometimes people get some little takeaway gems, but the transfer of learning that sticks is low. And if you think of online learning, it's even lower. So one of the things that companies are realizing is the transfer of learning with coaching is dramatically higher. So when companies want to get, bang for their buck, they want lasting change, not just to be able to say they offered this program. And coaching is right there to deliver that.
Thank you. And how coaches, what they can do to stay on the top of the curve, because it's learning, it's a constant learning, but also what will allow us coaches to keep up with what's happening from the client's perspective and demand.
I think a couple of things. One is to be able to coach at all levels in an organization. I find people kind of have a specialty a bit, like they might like new managers or they're really hot on executives or something. But coaching, as it expands to be across the organization, you're going to have more opportunity if you can coach at multiple different levels. And then I think same idea, if you can coach in multiple different methodologies, short-term, long-term, team, group, you're going to have more opportunity. I actually think team and group coaching is going to pick up. One reason it's a little closer to training, and companies feel like they're getting more people moving forward at, for less money or in less time or something like that. If you have hundreds of thousands of employees and you think about coaching them one-on-one, that's pretty tough. But if you think of coaching them in a group, it seems much more mentally manageable. And the other is, sorry, coaches, like I told you, I'm old as the hills. Half of my career, we didn't even have technology. You're really not going to be able to function going forward without technology. Whether it's Zoom, it's a way to track development of your coaches, it's automated invoicing, it's automated scheduling, like whatever it is, you're going to have to figure out how to do all those things. And almost like in organization, you're going to have a tech stack. So in other words, what are you using for your auto invoicing? Are you using Acuity? Are you using Calendly for your auto scheduling? Are you using Teams or Zoom or some other video? How is your QuickBooks or your accounting package tying into your auto invoicing? How are you creating coaching plans that can be viewed by the organization? How are you showing summaries or some kind of developmental process back to the coach, to the organization? Like we literally used to do that verbally. Like at the end of an engagement, we'd get together with HR, the manager, the coachee, and the coach, and we do that verbally. There was no documentation. Now you're talking company-wide. It has to be automated, and it can't be paper because there isn't any way to manage paper anymore. So large companies are going towards technology for the management of these things and away from paper. So if you're old like me or, not that great on technology, you're going to have to up your skills in that area.
Thank you. Any questions or comments here?
This is Rick Langley. I have a question for Lori.
Sure.
You mentioned about coaching down through the organization, and as a prior senior leader, what I realize is what happens is a disconnect between the senior leadership team and sometimes communicating the strategy and the vision down through the organization.
Right.
And therefore there's no buy-in. Therefore, there's failure.
Right.
And I see what has been the impact in that area, if you've had, if you've actually had those experiences in creating more of an alignment with the leadership team, going obviously both directions with more of a coach leadership style, and that strategy and vision that's oftentimes developed, by the senior leadership team, and whether through the coaching process you're able to communicate that vision to form that alignment. Sorry, that's a excuse me, that's a long, very long question, but I think you got that.
But that's a good question. So, by the way, that's been a traditional problem in organizations.
Yeah.
I think coaching helps a couple of ways. One is that vision or strategy can be communicated through the coaching. We access a lot of information from the customer and then utilize that to focus the coaching. So just the coaching in itself gets people thinking along the lines of strategy and direction. Those are also two of our leadership capabilities. So one of the really nice things is in the past, it was on the senior leadership to try to push that down. Now, as you have more people lower in the organization taking leadership responsibility, it becomes a dual accountability, that those people lower in the organization, like, how are you directing your team if you don't know what the company's strategy is?
Right.
You don't know, hey, go talk to your manager. You're not sure about that. Hey, go whatever, find a way to find it out. So now you have the request coming from down below as well as the information coming from above. And so I think that makes a big difference. And those individual leaders are then also become responsible for the strategy and the direction. So all the folks, all the leadership in the company owning that, not just the people at the top.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And we have a question on the chat box from Karen Gifford. So she's asking, would you be able to expand on tools that you're seeing for measuring impact, especially financial impact, such as platform like MyExcelia or others?
Okay. I actually think that's been one of the challenges for the coaching profession that's been hard to meet. And one reason the technology is a little behind compared to other industries. Traditionally, coaching impact was sort of this intangible thing. You kind of knew you had impact because whoever you're working with was doing better and getting better feedback. But because you were separated from the organization, you don't really know what that looks like. Now, this closer relationship between the organization and the coaching providers is allowing a lot more of a back and forth there so you can learn the impact. I think the technology is and is going to be even more helpful in determining this. So, for example, one thing we do at Sounding Board is when you create your coaching goals, you have a module that has you identify the company value for those goals. And that can be monetary, for example, increasing revenue or increasing sales numbers or something. That can also be non-monetary, like increasing employee engagement or advancing the culture of the organization. And we have ways for people to identify, those goals that they're working on. How are they impacting the organization as well as impacting the leader themselves? And then we aggregate that information and feed it back as data to the organization. And then the organization can utilize that both to make sure they're kind of on track with where people are heading, but also to be able to see the gaps where organizational impact is not happening. So the data part, data collection, and then distribution to the organization is really important for the ROI and understanding the monetary impact. One of the challenges is confidentiality. So how do you do this without violating the confidentiality you have with your client? And I actually think that's one of the things that's slowed down the technology development for coaching, trying to find the way to do that successfully.
Yeah, and that's from the perspective if you're part of a platform. They already took care of that piece to be able to present a return on the investments of the company in a visual way, and for the clients that they use the platform, as well as the coaches can see how it moves and
Yeah.
what is it.
Absolutely.
However, there are many coaches that they are not part of any of those platforms, and they're trying to struggle and find out how they can do it on their own. I have my 2 cents here, if I can add. First is always find what you're contracting for, how it's aligned to what the company wants, and put it in a structured way. You can use Quip, you can use Trello. There are multiple like platforms that they're available for very little money, but you can look and track that. Even though the coaching goals evolve through the coaching process, if you do a coaching for 3 months, it's very practical that you put that in a system that is visual and can give you a time frame. Lori, do you have any other suggestions for people that they are not part of platforms?
Oh, sure. I mean, remember, we've been doing this for 25 years without technology. So we had to show return on investment, in 1996 and 2005.
There are formulas too, and questionnaires and all of that.
Yes. So, the thing about it though, independent coaches. I was an independent coaches, obviously, for a long time. I actually chose to stay independent and not join an aggregator at the time that came up, just because I had already been coaching for long enough. I had a really good network and I was able to source my own business. But I really encourage you to become part of a platform, because as an individual showing development of one coachee, or how many people can you coach in an organization, at a time, it's going to be very hard for you as an individual to have the same kind of impact if Sounding Board can show the organization aggregated data from 1,000 coachees, and you can show the data for 1 or 10 coachees. The impact is still not going to be enough. But if you're like goddamn independent, like I was, you can actually put in, a structure for yourself, and basically, creating a coaching plan and then showing that you met the goals of the coaching plan and what the impact of meeting those goals were for the organization. You can do that. Vanya's putting Trello in here. Trello is like a project management software. So you can have, Trello, Asana, Monday, Kanban boards, or whatever you want. There's lots of ways to manage that. It can't be on paper. She's totally right. It cannot be on paper any longer.
Yeah, yes, because somebody asked to add that, so I'm trying to catch up, but I will do it later. I will add more. Lori also said Monday, but there's so many.
A lot of them are freeze. I think I pronounced them out as Kanban or Kanban boards. I like those because I love Post-it notes, and those are set up board style, like you have a whole bunch of Post-it notes. So I actually love that one. Asana. Yeah, Asana, we use it Sounding Board, and you have to, get yourself working with it because it has a lot of complexity, really useful complexity, but a lot of complexity. So you just have to find what's good for you.
And the cool part about the Kanban and some of these interactive boards that you can utilize during trainings. Basically, when you split if you do group coaching or training, you split your participants into a group, and then they can go on the board and they can interact with each other. It's very handy, it's very easy to use. You don't need any training, and they don't need much training as well. So I would suggest that. And then you can look through the history if you do multiple series of trainings or coaching sessions.
The only thing about that, you have to be careful. I mean, it depends on the size company you're working with. So if you're working in a startup and they're like free and easy, it's fine. But if you're working in a corporate setting, they don't want to add additional tools that aren't part of what they are already utilizing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get yourself in trouble if you have employees putting data in a tool that is not vetted by the company. You really open yourself up to large liability. So I would warn you against that. You might want to find out what the company is already using and see if you can get permission to either utilize their tools or permission for the coachees to utilize your tools outside of the company. So that's a little bit of a sticky place you have to get through with your own tools.
Yeah, and most of the companies are using some of them. And you can benefit of just using without you have to add that to the price that you're charging. And you can use always Slack. But there should be somewhere that you can keep track on the history of what's going on and where you're going for sure. And
just Slack is only used by about half companies out there. The other half is pretty much using Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Outlook. So you'll have to just see what's happening at your companies. One last thing about ROI. We use a model, it's called the Kirkpatrick model. It's been around for like 40 years. It was originally designed for training. It has 4 levels. The first level is basically, I like this, which is basically what training uses. The 4th level is, this changed how I'm operating in my job, and that changed the impact for the organization. If you find a way where you can have all 4 levels operating in your reporting back to the organization, you'll have a way to show a lot more impact.
Yeah. So now there is that this will bring the conversation towards the end. There is lots of buzz around artificial intelligence, and most of the coaches are saying, well, we cannot be replaced by robots because it's very complex of what we do. That's true, but there is a part of that many things of what coaches do can be replaced. Can you give us a little bit light on that?
Yep. So one the simplest thing is you can replace anything that's a repeated action. So even just telling people what coaching is or what are parameters of, designing your relationship, that can all be automated, right? And then all the repeated information is taken care of, and that gives you the space to really do all of the very personal work. A second way for, and related to that, you can have an automated coach bot that does some of the very simple activities. Like, for example, if you have an intake form, and you can have an automated little bot that helps your clients fill out the intake form, things like that. It just pushes them through that experience, help ask the questions that you were going to ask anyway, that kind of thing. So it takes off this level of repeated behavior for the coach. The other way Sounding Board is using AI and machine learning is with coach matching. So we took a very different approach to finding a match between the client and the coach than was the traditional. And the reason was for scalability. So traditionally, executive coaching, someone sourced 3 coaches. The individual had like a chemistry meeting with all of those 3 coaches and chose a coach. often their individual choice was maybe not the best choice, because they tend to choose someone like them. And then that tends to create this colluded point of view instead of choosing someone different. So we use coach matching, and we use about 10 different factors to match the coach with the coachee. We actually don't give the coachee a choice unless it's the executive suite. We just assign them a coach, and that's who they get. And we have turned out to be 97% successful at that matching, which is way higher than even the chemistry meetings do. That percentage is in the 80s, low 80s, 81, 82. And it also is a giant time saver. And that way we can match thousands of coaches to coachees at a time, when if we had to do 3 sessions and track all of that, it would be way more complicated. And it also allows for coaches in our network to have an opportunity to coach a wide range of people. And we can track all the numbers around that so that the coaching is distributed equally based on need of the customer. So it has a lot of advantages for deploying coaching at a large scale. It's also a giant time saver for the coach. Think of all those chemistry meetings you had and you gave your time to that didn't become your clients. We just take that all out of the picture. So sounding more, you get paid, for this work that you do, your actually skill set of coaching, not trying to sell the coachee on you as a coach.
Thank you. Yes, most of the integration of artificial intelligence on this platform is around matching and measuring certain impact and certain dimensions of progress, and how it's related to the initial values and goals of the company.
We also use it one other way. We have an agile development suite for the coachee where they track their progress. And so we use automated and AI approach to keep them moving through that cyclical iterative development as well.
Nice. So Lori, what is the long term? How do you see the long term of impact of artificial intelligence? Not what is
artificial intelligence and just the whole thing. Like, my idea is that every leader in an organization can have access to coaching. I actually think it would be so beneficial for companies. It would advance the company, but it also greatly impact the culture and organizations, and I think create better managers and leaders, which seemingly we still need to do after all of these years.
Well, that's powerful, and I'm so looking for that.
I'll give you one other little quick plug. Like, generally, I mentioned all my coaches in the early days were men, and primarily white men. Right now, 62% of the coachees for Sounding Board are people of color. So that's dramatically different deployment of coaching than had been in the past. And I would hope that to expand even more over time.
Yeah, me too. So to wrap up the session, you can reach out if you have any additional questions. Lori is offering support. You can reach out to Sounding Board, please, to this email, hello Sounding Board. I will post it in the chat box. Also, if you have any questions and want to connect with me, I will post my LinkedIn account and I respond on my messages always. Please connect. Mm-hmm. And thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate, Lori, your insights and input and agreeing to be my guest, even though I know that you're so busy. And
my pleasure.
I wish you all the best. Thank you. I'm looking forward to keep in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see everyone.
Nanor, do you want to wrap up with what is
Sure.
follow-up for the board and from ICF? Orange
Sure.
County?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Lori, that was really great. Thank you for like really sharing so openly everything that you're doing, and also supporting us coaches on how we can better our coaching, particularly in the technology world. I'd love to actually, Vanya, as a suggestion for the future, I'd love to learn more how to use some of these platforms. Like I use Asana, but I never thought of using it for my coaching clients. I use it for project management, like my own projects. So I can't even visualize what that would look like yet. So I'd love to, maybe you can do a training or session with us coaches on how to use some of these platforms.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
will think
so-
about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but thank you, Lori, and thank you, Vanya. This was very helpful and enlightening, I guess is the word I want to use. So as far as October goes, what we have coming up next is on the 27th. It's a new time. Again, it's going to be a virtual meeting like this. We have my gosh, I forgot her name, but Marion Franklin, who's an MCC coach, she's going to come back and share with us about masterful coaching made simple. So Vanya, what you're talking about, the transformation piece, she's got some little ways, little tricks on how to transform people a little bit more quickly. So
Well, Marion's a great resource. She's been around for years as well.
yeah.
Wealth of knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, we just finished her book. We did laser focused coaching. We have a book club going on, and she came to our book club and shared as well. And we got her to come back and do one more webinar. So it's going to be, or a virtual meeting. So we're
Right.
excited about that. And then November is just jam packed, guys. Go on our website, check it out. I think we have like 8 events going on. So come on down. So we'd love to have you guys. You are what makes our chapter so special, so genuine. We're just a really nice community, and I'm loving it. So thank you for creating that. I appreciate it.
Lori, any final words? Anything you want to say?
No, just get out there and coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Over the
look.
future.
Go back to work.
Go make a
you.
difference. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you. Thank
See
you,
you
everyone,
in a
for
month
joining.
and a half. My last
Yes. We have one the beginning of December, right, Vanya?
December 1st. Yes.
December 1st. All right, guys. Ciao.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.